All right, we're back. It's still the 13th of May, 2026, and we left off talking about what motivated you to return to Utah. And the last time we said earthquakes, that was enough. Aging parents, you know, Granny and Gramps and your mother uh, up in Springville,
Mm-hmm. Smithville.
Smithfield up by the Idaho border, right?
Yep.
Up above Logan. Those were reasons. And then the other was Frank DeAnda's son, Steve DeAnda, has graduated and was looking to go from Crown Prince and PhD, Papa Has dealership,
Yeah, that'll work.
to him being the operator. And so you could see a little writing on the wall that you were just going to be in the way once he was up to speed. So you were looking to.
Yep. The way that works with franchise dealers is if you work for a franchise dealer, you have to get their permission to go and look. And I went to Frank and I told him, I said, Frank, Steve's doing great and he's moving along and he's not going to sit still, and I'd like to have the opportunity to get a store of my own. And he wrote me a letter and agreed, and he said, you're welcome to stay. And so then I started looking. I got with the manufacturers and I got with different people that were looking for dealerships, and I went and looked at a few. Beth went with, we'd go look. And then I ran into one that really kind of sounded like a good deal. So I kind of cranked it up a notch, and it was in Moscow, Idaho. And I got a ticket. I flew up to Moscow, Idaho, and that's not an easy chore because Moscow, Idaho is a long ways from anywhere. I had to go from flying out of San Jose up to Spokane, and then from Spokane over to Moscow, and then to come back, you had to do the same thing. So it took more than a day to get there and more than a day to get back, and I was there for about a day. So when I got back, I was all excited because it was what I thought was a really good opportunity, and your mother said absolutely not.
No, not going to live in a small town of Moscow. That's not close enough to her parents, I guess.
Yep. She says we're two days away from our parents, whether we're driving or whether we're flying.
Moscow's not that far away, it seems. I mean,
it's up.
It's up near Oregon or Washington or
Washington.
something.
Moscow and Pullman, Washington. They're on the either side of this river that goes through there, and both of them are college towns. One is Washington State, and the other one is Idaho State. Those two universities there. It's a pretty good sized little town. The numbers were good on it, and I really thought that was great. But I had to go back and tell Chevrolet, that's not for us. And so then this guy Ken Fritz, he was the zone manager for Chevrolet out of Denver. He said, "Well, I got the perfect thing for you." He says, "I got a dealer I hate." that was his verbiage. His name's Jim Beam, and he never could say his name right. Always Jim Beam, not Jim Bean. And he says, "Go over there and make him an offer." He says, "I'll do everything I can to help you get that store."
And where was that one located?
In Ogden.
Ogden. Okay.
And so I went over to Ogden and I went in and met him, and he knew I was coming, and he just played with me all day. He didn't really want to sell the store, and he was in a kind of a little war with General Motors, and General Motors wanted him out, and it was a waste of my time. And I had a guy named John Waite, who was the regional guy over here in Utah, that I had to meet with each night when I was finished. And I told him, this is a waste of our time. Nobody's going to do anything here. I mean, he one time said he would sell as long as he could keep his airplane and he could keep his something else. And anyway, it was like an extra $1 million plus at Blue Sky. That's ridiculous. So, but John Waite said, I got another dealer that I'll have to check with him to see if he's interested. But in my opinion, he really does need some help. And he needs some help to really know what he's doing. The only store he's ever worked in was his family store. And he says it's a very small store. And it's a store that General Motors would like to see move from its present location over to Sandy. And that was Riverton Motor. And I knew Riverton Motors from when I was a younger guy. When I was selling cars, I used to, at least twice, I went all the way out to Riverton to get a car for a customer that was buying a new car. So I knew where it was, and I knew what it was. It was a real small store. He says, but let me check with him, and if it's okay with him, then I'll get you guys together. And so the next day he called me up and he said, yeah, he'll be willing to meet with you. And I said, okay. So we lined it up. I met with Chris, and we were up at a hotel up on 94 South, or not a hotel, a restaurant, Mexican restaurant, up on 94 South. And he'd just taken over from his dad. According to him, his dad had kind of given this to him and given that to him. And I said, well, I don't know, well, sounds good. And let me look at the numbers. So he took me back and introduced him to this guy, Robert Taylor, who was his controller. And Robert Taylor didn't want me looking at anything. And I didn't have to look very far before, and I found out why. But at that point, I still hadn't got a deal with Chris, but I was concerned. I said, we got some real problems here. And we talked again. Then I went back to California. Then you and I and your mother came up here for you to go through the temple, I think.
Yeah, that's 1990. There was 3 things we did that day.
Yep.
It was your birthday, by the way.
Yep.
So 25th of October, we did some house hunting, and you guys settled on a house. We did Mr. Mac shopping so that I could have my 2 pantsuits and shirts and other things for my mission. And I went through the Salt Lake Temple and received my endowment.
Yep.
So those are the things that we accomplished on that trip.
Yep.
Also on that trip, you and Mom and I got to come along for the ride. Went out to dinner with Chris and Don Ann Page, and I think they chose the restaurant. They took us up the canyon to Snowbird and did some steak house up there. Yeah. And so that's the first time I met Chris and Don Ann, and they took you out to dinner.
Yep. Well, before that dinner, he and I had made an agreement. And actually, we didn't. This was the agreement. I said to him, look, I can fix this. I know I can do it. But this is what I'm going to do. I'm already coming. I'm coming back to Utah no matter what. I'm leaving Seaside. I'm coming up here. And I'll go to work for you. When I get here, I'm going to go to work for you. And if you like what I do, pay me. If you don't like what I do, don't pay me. And eventually I'll go away because I'll starve to death. And he says, are you kidding me? I said, no, I'm not kidding you. I said, that's what I see. I said, you got some real serious problems here. And so he said, okay. So I went back and packed up. And on, I think it was like December 3rd, we arrived here, and the headlines in the newspaper was a pending earthquake. I couldn't believe it. But we didn't get the earthquake, but it was supposed to be. They were forecasting there was going to be an earthquake on the Wasatch Front fault. And we went to work. And what we found, of course, very quickly is that what he thought he bought had $653,000 worth of over a year old service claims being carried as a receivable, as an asset. And under the rules of General Motors, when you have 1 year to process a claim, and if you don't get it submitted and approved within that year, it's garbage.
Yeah, they're not going to pay it.
You got nothing. Well, fortunately for me, one of the real blessings of Steve DeAnda and Love Motors was Steve fell in love with a gal that was actually a complaint that came in from Detroit. Talked to me, and Don Campbell, who was the full number 2 guy at Chevrolet and in charge of the entire west of the Mississippi, said, I need you to take care of this customer. This customer means a lot to me personally. I don't care what it takes. I want you to take care of this customer, and I'm going to send her in to see you. And I said, okay. So we brought her in. She didn't like her car. We got all the numbers. We did all the math. And she picked out the car she wanted and did all the numbers and did all the math and didn't tell her the numbers. And called Don Campbell back in Detroit. I said, okay, she's found one she likes. This is it. And he said, okay, sell it to her. And Steve DeAnda was the finance guy. Put her in with Steve. Steve did the numbers. I mean, this was an unbelievable deal. They virtually gave her everything she paid for it new, couple of year old car, and sold her the new car for less than invoiced by a long ways. But anyway, made her happy. Well, she was enrolled in some kind of a special school out there in the Carmel area that she was going to. And her parents were Don Campbell's best friend and also his personal physician and also his golf partner. And the next thing I know, Steve is dating this gal. Then they have an engagement party, and Jim, he was the president at the time, Jim Perkins, and Don Campbell both came out to Pebble Beach, and they had a party for Steve DeAnda and his wife at Pebble Beach. And Jim Perkins and Don Campbell both. It just happened to be in October, and so it was Don Campbell's birthday, it was Frank DeAnda's birthday, and it was my birthday. And so we were celebrating together. And when we parted, both Jim Perkins and Don said, if you ever need anything, you ever need a special favor, you really, and I took that as real. And so when I got to Chris, I called Don Campbell
And said, this dealer's out of sorts.
Yep, this dealer is out of trust, over $700,000, and the majority of it is in receivables to General Motors for outstanding warranty repairs that have never been paid. And he's carrying it on his books as an asset, and he doesn't have any money. The store's selling 40 cars a month, and it's not doing it. I can fix it, but we gotta get some cash back in this deal. And Don Campbell said, you get your people to go through those claims and get them ready to go the best you can. Just work on it. And then when you're done, I want you to ship them directly to my office, not to central accounting, but to my office. And I'll have one of my people take them to central accounting. And Brenda Steele and what was the Smith?
Bonnie
Annette
Parkin,
Smith.
Annette Smith, and Bonnie Parkin.
Yep. We worked for 48 hours. I never left the store the whole time. I was right there. The girls would go home and sleep and come back. But I mean, we stayed right on that. And we had that 48 hours later. We had it boxed up. And I had it shipped directly to Don's office. And the next week, in the middle of the week, we got the check. I mean, it went boom. And I fired
Robert, whatever.
Robert Taylor. He was skimming. He was doing some other things too. And hired Terry Ferran. That was a good move.
Yep.
And another one that was a good move was your wife, Maxie.
Yep. So that gets you to Utah with the family. I'm
Yep.
off on my mission, and now you guys start putting your eyes together on building a dealership in Sandy, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that was under construction when I came here, and you guys moved in.
Yep.
Not January, February of '93, something like that.
It was January '93.
Anyway, let's switch it back to Mom.
Okay.
Tell me, we already talked about your honeymoon.
Yep.
What other vacations have you gone on? You started telling me a little bit over lunch, so let's get that on the video.
Okay. One of the vacations we went on was she and I in my orange truck. I had a '57 Chev step-side truck, and we loaded up a cooler and a couple of sleeping bags, and we went to Yellowstone.
So it was just the two of you?
Mhm.
No kids yet? Okay.
No.
So,
And we went to Yellowstone. It was a good time. We went through the park and Old Faithful and all that kind of
did you
stuff.
just sleep in the back of the truck, or
Yep.
what?
Yeah, we slept in the back of the truck. It wasn't a long trip. It was just like a weekend or something. But that was the first vacation other than the honeymoon that we ever took.
Okay, so that
And
sounds like a nice one.
That was a good one, yep. Vacations. We went for a long time with no vacation. We just work. In '86, things were going pretty good. I just finished up with American Motors. I did a little project for Mary Oldsmobile, and both of them were kind of big windfalls for money. So I had some money, so I bought an Astrovan, brand new and 8-passenger Astrovan.
Yep.
And I
Blue.
Yeah, and I bought that, and I got a hold of Disney Club. Disney had a travel club through our credit union, and I booked a trip down to a 7-day trip. We went down to Disneyland. We also went to Africa USA, which was in San Diego.
Right.
We went to
SeaWorld.
SeaWorld. We went to Knoxbury Farm,
Mm-hmm.
and we went
Universal
to Universal
Studios.
Studios.
Yep.
And I remember your mother saying, we need to take a break. We need, this is the first time, I mean, I've never had vacations like this, but I knew everybody needed it, and I knew everybody deserved it, and we worked hard to get there, and we went, and we had a good time.
Yep.
And we stayed in a hotel off property at Disneyland, but it was really close. And then when we went to San Diego, we stayed at this high rise. It was
International
really
something or other.
Yeah,
I remember that one.
Intercontinental, I think is what.
Yeah, that sounds right.
And
That was right off the harbor.
and yeah, you can see the harbor and everything else.
We're on the
And
10th, 11th floor, and you can
Yeah.
look down to the pools below. And No, that was a great trip. I certainly have memories of that because I would have been 13, 14 years old at the time.
Yeah, that was a good one. That was a good one. Then we also took one trip up to Washington. I don't remember the reason we did that.
Now, I was on my mission when you took the family out to Disney World,
Yeah, that's a different time.
and I want to say there was a family reunion that I also missed while I was on my mission because Uncle Paul and Aunt Sana had sold, as I understand the story, he got passed over for a partner and got in a bit of a huff over it, quit the job, sold the expensive house in, not that it was particularly
Fremont.
not that it was a particularly grand house per se, but California prices allowed him to sell the house in, you say Fremont?
Fremont.
I remember there being some kind of Newark or something like that.
Oh, that's true. It was Newark, right next door to Fremont. I mean,
Anyway,
that's
so
right, same
he
area.
sells the expensive house there and buys
A ranch.
a ranch, farm, something in Idaho, and relocates the family and starts wearing cowboy boots and a cowboy hat and,
Yeah.
and whatnot. And so we end up having some kind of family reunion there. I wasn't privy to that one because I was on my mission. And it seems to me that you guys came home by way of Washington, like you
Yeah,
went
we
up
did.
there. And that's what I think I'm tying the two together. If
Yeah,
that was that
I think
trip.
you're right. That was a good trip. I remember first getting to Salt Lake, and I remember having $4,000 in cash. and and as we got into Salt Lake, I I stopped and I made a phone call at a pay station somewhere around South Salt Lake at a payphone, and got back in the car and we went out to
Because these are before the days of cell phones.
yes.
Okay.
And I drove out to Bountiful to the Bloods, and when I get there, I realize I don't have my wallet. Back in those days, I carried my wallet, was a wallet that folded in half.
A
and I
bifold?
kept- yeah,
Yeah.
I kept it. It had a day timer in it and all kinds of stuff. Anyway, I realized I didn't have my wallet. Man, $4,000.
That's an expensive wallet.
It's going to end our trip for sure. But I mean, within 20 minutes, the phone rang, and this person said, "We found your wallet, and you had a business card in it, so we called the store, and they looked up, knew you were coming here, so they plugged me into Grandma's house, and I went over and I got the wallet. Every penny was there, and really, I can't imagine doing that in California."
I lost my wallet the day Ross was born. St. Mark's Hospital, 39th South.
Yeah,
I must have like set it on top of the car or something, getting the car seat, whatever. And I lost my wallet. And same kind of thing. It was half day timer, half wallet, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I only had like $40 in it. I didn't have a lot of money in it.
yeah,
But I received it in the mail because my driver's license and everything. Somebody just put it in a thing, and it cost them. They sent it like certified, whatever. It cost them like $10 to mail it to me. Now, granted, the $40 was gone, but I figured they used some of that to mail me my wallet. I was just pleased.
yeah,
I was just pleased that I didn't have to replace everything in the contents. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's. But I think that could happen. Maybe not in every place in this country, but I want to think that people are generally good.
yep,
Most people, that happened in Georgia or somewhere in the South of Tennessee or something like that. I don't think people are going to be like, oh, just take the contents and throw it in the dumpster. Of course, nowadays you'd be more concerned about identity theft than the contents of your
yep. That's
wallet.
true.
But no, that was good. $4,000 all there. That's pretty remarkable. What about trips? You said something about Germany. I know that Chevrolet had been good to you through the years with trips.
Yeah,
it's
we
like-
took a
like
few.
Rome
We
and-
took a cruise that went from Los Angeles down to Puerto Vallarta, up to Mazatlan, up to Cabo San Lucas and back. It was a 7-day trip again, and that was with Carnival, and that was Chevrolet, and that was the time your mother found out about Long Island iced tea.
Did she not realize the Long Island iced tea
Yep.
had alcohol in it? She
Yep.
just thought they tasted good?
Yep, her and this guy from Alton, Illinois, I remember, were out on the deck, and he was not a drinker either, but he thought they were great, and so he said, "Here, this is iced tea." And your mother didn't equate iced tea with, and they were free. You know, they were bringing them around on the cruise ship, and
Well, that's Chevrolet for you. It doesn't matter what, if they're paying for the trip, there's booze involved.
oh yeah,
We went to Cabo San Lucas, and yeah, they greeted us with alcohol when we got off the plane. It was a nonstop booze fest the entire time. Maxine and I had to keep waving them away. So yeah, Chevrolet, if they sponsor the trip, that's synonymous with everybody will be drunk.
I've been on some trips, and they really do. But anyway, this poor guy from Alton, Illinois, he got it even worse than Beth did. But Beth got a little woozy that day too, but he went right in the tank. He didn't make it the next morning to breakfast. Yeah, but that was one, and then another time. This was a big one. This one was with. Let me think who picked up the bill on this. I think it was one of the, maybe KSL. KSL. We flew from Salt Lake to Gandor, Newfoundland, refueled, and went from there to Istanbul, Turkey. Went to Istanbul. We were there for a day. Went to the Grand Bazaar, which is a wild and crazy place. But and then they put us on a cruise ship. And for the next 7 days, we bounced through the Greek Isles. And you've seen one Greek Isle on Apollo Rocks. You've seen them all. But
So you couldn't tell the Parthenon from the.
no, that's not really true. The thing that was probably the most memorable was a place called Euphrates or something like that, and it was a Roman port back in those days, and it's where Mary, the mother of Christ, was exiled to after his death. It was first class living. I mean, you got to understand, Mary was an heir to David.
Sure.
You know, they took her and his brother, and they took him up to Euphrates, and she had a very nice spread up there. And yeah, I saw the house, and the house is really, really tiny, but hey, this is back when people didn't have a lot of houses. She has a nice house with a fountain in front. There were some real amenities for the time. And also, that was a neat thing that I saw in that city was they had designed a irrigation system, I guess a sewer system is better. They had this water that ran through the town, and they had these public baths, and then they also had public toilets. And the water would run underneath the toilet seats, so that you could see the seats.
Mm-hmm.
And it was pretty update for
You just
that time
carry
frame.
the waste away, huh?
Yeah. That was a neat one. Then there was another one called Mykonos that was kind of fun. It was small island, but it had a little church on it and had some little villages. And I mean, there really wasn't much there other than just these homes in this little church. Then I saw Rhodes. Rhodes is a fortification from the Renaissance period that was massive. And then I went to some others. I went to one where we had to.
You keep saying was Mom not on this trip?
No, she was
okay,
there.
so this wasn't like from your military days when you were bouncing around Europe.
This is your mother and I.
Okay.
And the people from KSL, I think. And you had to ride these burros up to the village, which is up on these cliffs, and it was kind of fun. And your mother had a blue sapphire ring that I bought her there. That was she really loved that ring, and I picked up that she did. So when I did the best I could to get it for her without her knowing, and so she didn't get to find out she had it, owned it until we got to Athens. I gave it to her in Athens. But that was a fun trip, going through those islands. It wasn't anywhere near as fun as the one I told you about earlier, where we went to Vienna, and that was very, 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 very nice trip.
Was that a trip that you planned yourself? That
Yeah.
wasn't a
Yeah, I won
Chevrolet
a
sponsored or
No, I won a trip from Chevrolet, but they gave you the option of so many points, and you could use the points to buy travel through their travel company. So I put it together myself, and like I say, we flew to Vienna, rented a car, went all the way up through Berchtesgaden, Salzburg, Rothenburg, Munich, up to Nuremberg. When we got to Nuremberg, we turned the car in, and we got on a train and went from Nuremberg to Berlin. We spent a day in Berlin, and it was right at the time when Berlin had just been, Germany's had been put back together, and the population of Germany had decided that they were going to move the capital back to Berlin. And Berlin was flat under construction. I mean, I sat in our room, which was way high in a big hotel, and looked out, and I counted over 50 those great big
cranes and
Yeah.
things, yeah.
Then we flew out.
What year do you think this is? This is after the Berlin Wall came down then?
Oh yeah, after the Berlin Wall came down.
Because that was in the 80s, right? When Reagan got him to tear the wall down.
Yeah, and this would have been in the 90s.
Okay.
And then we flew from Berlin to Strasbourg, France, which is where the Rhine River, the famous picture of that area is General Patton peeing in the Rhine. Anyway, got on the boat at Strasbourg and went up the Rhine River, which is by Bonn and Heidelberg, Dusseldorf, and when we come to the end, we were at Amsterdam, and then we flew home from Amsterdam. We went to Hawaii as a family, at least.
Not with me. I never went to Hawaii.
Yeah, we
So
did.
that must have been like a Richard and Russell were still at home.
Maybe.
The rest of the kids were out, kind of thing.
I don't know.
Because when you guys moved back here, Tracy was a sophomore.
Yeah.
When you moved to Utah, Tracy was a sophomore, Jennifer was a junior.
Mm-hmm.
She finished her junior year, did her senior year, and off to the Y she went. And then Tracy, of course, had a little tougher transition, but she ultimately graduates from Alta High School as well, and then
through travel school, and
travel school, and so,
then she went on her mission.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Yeah, there were,
Didn't Chevrolet send you to Rome?
no.
So it must. I'm associating that Turkey, Greek Isles with the Rome trip.
Yeah,
Then.
no.
For
That
some
was-
reason I thought you guys went to Rome.
There were some other trips, but Channel 4 sent us to the British Isles. We went to
That's right, because you brought me back like a kilt and a very warm wool sweater from Scotland.
Scotland.
Yeah.
And I really liked Scotland. I didn't care so much for England, but we went to a Broadway type show in England. I remember there was a district there, something Gardens is the name of it, and it's a lot of street performers and that kind of thing. It was interesting. A lot of history there, of course, and that's where my roots are from, almost totally, is that area. But then took a train up to Scotland. I really liked Scotland. Pace went down. The people were really friendly. London people were just too busy. They didn't want to be bugged, and they didn't want to bug you. Scotland, everybody was real friendly. If you asked directions, it meant you got a tour guide. They're taking you. It was fun. Let me think of where else.
I know you guys came out and picked me up from my mission,
Mm-hmm.
so we bounced around some historical sites in Pennsylvania, and then
Yeah.
ultimately we went down into Delaware, and then ultimately down to DC before flying home to San Jose, where I got released by the stake president out there in spite of the family now living in Sandy. So that was a trip there that
Yeah. Your mother and I also went to Hawaii once, where it was a Chevrolet trip again. It was the Utah Auto Dealers Association on Kauai, and it was beautiful. And I played golf, and I hit one of my shots that'll always be in my memory is I was playing with D.W. Burnside, who was the local GMAC rep, and a guy from Channel 4, Tom Love, and and one of the brothers that had the Buick store down in South.
Hayes Brothers Buick.
Yeah, one of the Hayes brothers was the other one in our foursome, and went and played golf, and we landed on this one deal, and I'm at least, with being very conservative, 85 feet from the pin, and everybody else is closer than me, and so I say, look, let me hit this and give you guys a line on this deal, and I did, and it went in. And I mean, the tournament rules were you had to use at least one drive and one fairway and one
Oh, so
putt.
it was a scramble.
Yeah.
The best ball scramble.
So I got to actually help the team out by hitting that putt.
Putt at 85 feet, huh?
Yep. And that was fun. But it was, the thing I remember of that trip was it was gorgeous, but it was also obscenely expensive. And what really one of the surprises of that island is there is a part of that island on the far end that's like looking into the Grand Canyon. You know, it's not tropical at all. And yet the other end is the wettest place on earth, up by Princeville. I flew back on trips to Detroit a lot, sometimes to Denver for meetings.
Well, let's not forget Cancun.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you, when we were living out in Santa Cruz area, Aptos, Santa Cruz Second Ward, living in Aptos,
Yep.
the Weibergs move in,
Yep.
and they tell you about how they bought into a timeshare in Cancun, and you end up going down there as their guest.
Yep.
And then from there, you guys become owners too, right?
Yep. Well, long time after. Anyway, we flew down there, and we got there in the middle of the night, and this taxi driver, he said, we need to get something to eat. We haven't eaten. And so he says, okay. So he drives, and 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 he drives. And finally he comes out up at Porto Juarez to this little pier restaurant, got a light bulb on. And he says, this is it. Okay. So we all get out and we go in there. That was a nice meal. But we find out that, you know, this place here, for him to bring tourists way out where we are, they would pay them a commission for doing it. So the next day, I figured that out before we ever got there, because it took so long to get there. But the next day is when I met Webster. and
A different cab driver in this
yeah,
case, right?
different cab driver. But I was really wary of cab drivers now. And anyway, we struck up a friendship, and it was fun. We brought him and his kids and his wife over to our place at Royal Caribbean, and at that particular time, their room was on the 11th floor, and taking these two little kids and his wife, who is a Mayan who speaks zero English and some Spanish and a lot of Mayan. We get in the elevator, we go up 11th floor, and when we step out of that elevator, we're up high. And as we step out, Melita was her name, looked over that edge, grabbed her two kids and slammed them up against the wall. I mean, she was terrified.
Even though the hallway was
Yeah.
10, 15 feet wide.
Well, it was, anyway, it was, and then we got them in the room. Well, at that time I had my first video camera, had this little tape, and that day we'd been down to Ishkaret. This is before Ishkaret turned into a resort.
The tourist attraction
Yeah.
that it is.
And I had some film of Webster diving in these pools and disappearing under these rocks and different things. And I hooked up my thing to the
Camera to
TV,
the TV.
and all of a sudden, there's Webster on TV, and Andy, his son, who's about 4, he goes over, he's looking at that TV, he goes around the back, it was funny. Then we took him out to dinner. We went to this restaurant, and when they were coming around asking what they ordered, I couldn't tell you what they were saying to the kids, but I'm sure it wasn't anything other than, don't be a... Andy sticks his finger out and he said, I want that one. It's a picture on the deal. It's of a salad. I want to say it's a tuna salad with some fancy leaves underneath, and on top is a maraschino cherry. Not a maraschino cherry. What's the green olives with the red stuff in?
Oh, green olive with a pimento in it?
Yeah, it was on top. He said, I want that, And his mother said, no, you don't need that, dude. And I said, no, if he wants it, get it. So anyway, we get it. And it shows up. And we're sitting around talking, and they put that thing right in front of him. He's looking at it. He's not used to silverware, so he goes after it with his fingers. It tastes pretty good. But then he sees that green thing on top. And about then, Webster says something to him and tells him to put it on his plate. So he puts it on his plate. And Webster must have told him that he's got to eat the whole thing. So anyway, he starts eating it, but he keeps watching his dad. When his dad turned away, takes it, puts it on his dad's plate. So then Webster catches him, scolds him, puts it back on his plate. He gets watching everybody again. When everybody's not watching, he takes it over his shoulder.
He did not want to eat that. Huh?
And his mother was mortified. But anyway. But he and I got to be good friends. One time we went down there, your mother and I, and we tried to find Webster, and we couldn't find him. And we finally, Juan, our other friend, helped us find him. And he had lost his car, and he was waiting to use somebody else's car when they got through with it and to work the night, so he had something to work. And so your mother and I decided we're going to buy him a car. And we took him out to Merida, which is a town on the interior, very nice town, but it didn't have the rust problems and stuff that you have right on the coast. And we went out there, I mean, that was a fun day for all three of us. We were flagging cars down in the street and asking them to buy their car. It was a kick, and we found one, and we bought this $1,500 we paid for a 1983 Crown Vic, and pretty good shape. And then of course we took it back to his brother-in-law who had a shop, and his brother-in-law did some repairs and things on it, and then turned it into a green and white cab, and that was his first cab. Prior to that, he'd always had to rent a car or get somebody else's car to use to make his money. But in the end, he betrayed me, and we didn't end up staying friends.
Oh yeah, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Because I know he went from Crown Vic to eventually getting like a Suburban or something,
Yeah.
and eventually he was able to, instead of renting somebody else's medallion, he'd been in the business long enough that he was able to get his own medallion, and so things were getting better for him. But I also think his life fell apart. Like he ended up divorcing his wife, and
Yeah, well, that depends on whose perspective you are. You know, Webster didn't have a whole lot of moral fiber. He was kind of a wild and crazy guy, and he got him a new girlfriend and moved to a different area. And the Mexican laws are really crazy. Women can't own property down there. So when they got divorced, he still had the house, which he had gone through the process of getting the land grant, building the house, and doing all of that. So it was his house. He turned around and gave it to his son, but his son did live. His mother lived there. But,
so how did he betray you? What was the turn of events there?
He and Brett, I introduced him to Brett.
Brett was the Wet Dreams.
Nielsen.
He was the one that tried to set up was that down in, I don't know where
he
that was
had
at.
He had a dive shop in Puerto Morelos.
Okay.
And he's also the one that I went in partners on that resort, and we lost our ass. But he took advantage of Brett, and he owed this money to Brett, and he didn't pay him. And so I made good the debt, and Webster had always been square with me, but he stiffed me on that.
So you settled debt for him with Brett so that he and Brett would still be on good terms, but then he never settled up with you.
Yep.
I don't know. I guess he just viewed you as being his.
He took advantage. He took advantage.
I mean, you'd always been there for him as far as buying him a car and some other things, and so.
Oh yeah.
So I'm sure he just looked at you as being wealthy enough to handle it. And
yeah, one time his sister called me from Mexico wanted $8,000 to bail her boyfriend out of jail, and I called Webster and said, "This ain't gonna happen."
so in the height of Mexico, you ended up buying 2 weeks back-to-back weeks, what, 8 and 9?
Mm-hmm.
At the Royal Islander, right? Isn't that where it was? It was Royal Mayan, Royal Caribbean, Royal Islander.
Yep.
And eventually they went on to build the Royal Sands, and then they went and developed something, that same group developed something down in Playa del Carmen, right? Down that direction.
Well, yeah.
La Hacienda.
Well, there's two more. There's another one that was called.
There was Hotel Club International or something like that was the original one, right?
Yeah, that one. It cashed out, and then they turned around and bought it back. But they're out of the timeshare business now. Now what they do is it's all inclusive. They've turned it into resorts. But anyway.
But you bought 2 weeks, and the two of you would go down there pretty regularly, or
Oh, yeah.
didn't have much trouble finding somebody to rent it from you, because at one point you got it seemed like all the upper crusts of Riverton Motor Company excited about being down there,
Well,
right?
they all bought them too. I mean,
Fran's got one,
Yep.
and LT maybe
Who?
LT.
LT, Mike, Kathy Cameron,
Did the Pages ever get some?
Pages.
Yeah, Maxine, we ended up getting, we found somebody that wanted to cash out, so we just bought it halfway through. It was a 30-year deal, and we bought it at year 14 or 15 or 16 or something like that, and wrote it out. But after about the third time going down, Maxine simply said, there's a lot of other places in this world I'd like to go instead of keep going back to the same place over and over. And so
Yep.
we've kind of taken that approach. I don't think
Did
we'll
you
ever
ever
do another
Did you ever
timeshare.
try trading it? Because it traded really easy.
We never really did. We put it in the pool and rented it more often than not.
But it always rented, right?
I think there was only 1 week where we only got like a partial rental out of it, like they rented 1 or 2 nights and something. But for the most part, we always covered the maintenance costs with
Yeah.
what. So it didn't cost us any money. The only thing it really cost us is we paid 10 grand for it, and they were only going to cash us out at the original price of about $8,600. And then because it was 2008 and the housing market was crashing, values went down, so we ended up getting less than $6,000 for it. But
Yeah.
all in all, it wasn't terrible. You all right? Did it go down the wrong pipe?
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
But anytime we went to Cancun and enjoyed the resort, whether it was lounging by the pool, swimming in the pool, playing tennis, going to the different sites, because we've been to Xcaret and
Tulum.
Tulum and Chichen Itza and stuff multiple times, and we would go back, but it was getting to where it was a little bit repetitious.
Yep.
And once we made sure all of our kids got down there because we took Jack and Ross the first time, and then we took Samantha and the twins the next time, that kind of thing. So once everybody had a chance to go there, we just didn't feel the desire to keep going back, which is a little strange that you and Becky end up moving there. How long did you live in Mexico for?
Almost 3 years.
3 years?
Yeah, it was fun. I liked Mexico not as a tourist stop, but as the Mexican people. The saints in Mexico are some really good people. And we spent a lot of time with them, and probably my best friend down there was a guy by the name of Lemuel Petlacockel. And one time he was my bishop, and one time he was my stake president. And unfortunately, this last 6 months, he's been gone. And he was a young guy, he was your age.
Oh yeah, something happened to him, like he get
Yeah.
sick or cancer or something?
Down there, the medical system is not a bad medical system, but it's just not as good. And when you go to the hospital down there, the way their medical system works is the doctors, they do the doctoring, and
They say, okay, this surgery's gonna cost you 40 grand. If you don't have it, you don't get it.
well, no, that's not the point I'm trying to make here. The housekeeping on your room is your family's problem. Bringing you food is your family's problem. Changing out your linen and that kind of stuff.
That's all their responsibility, huh?
Yeah. They don't do that. And the other thing they don't have is they don't have a blood bank. So if you need blood, better call your friends and get them in there. Certainly was nice to be LDS. Because LDS people, if they needed blood,
Put the word out.
they were quick to respond. Lemuel was quick to respond, and the blood that when he went there anyway, he caught a virus that killed him.
It's too bad.
More than once I had other, what they call expatriates. These are people from other countries that live in Mexico. We had quite a few friends there, and Becky was in a women's group, and I was in a men's group that we met with them, and they were friends. And we've had them call us and say, "Can you help us? We got a situation where we need blood." And of course, I'd call Lemuel, and Lemuel would get the saints out there and rally them up and get the blood they needed. That's happened 2-3 times.
But you just rented when you were down there. When when Mom and you divorced, you guys each took a week, right?
Yep.
I don't know if she took the early week and you the late week, or vice versa. But
I had the early week, she had the late week.
okay, so you're living down there. When that week came around, did you guys just go stay in it for a week, or did you end up renting it out, or trading it, or what?
We had other people come down and use it, or we had other people pay us to use it. I mean,
It's cashed out at this point, right?
One of them was Logan Page's wedding. They think that they were being really coy, but they had someone that they knew was still talking to me call me, and I let them use that for that wedding. I mean, I got paid for it.
Right, but considering the terms you were on with his mother, Logan's mother, they thought they were being sneaky by getting somebody else to rent it for them, and then they pay for it.
Yeah, see, the first place that we rented in Mexico was owned by Kathy Cameron. She bought 2. She bought one, and her brother bought one, and her brother never left England. He was invalid, but he had the money, so she bought one for him, and then she turned around and she rented that to me. But it was a 2-story up and down the steps, and I couldn't handle the steps, and neither could Sporty Boy. Sporty Boy broke his foot on those steps, so we ended up finding this other place, and so we finished our agreement with Kathy the first year, and then we moved into the place over on. It's the district is referred to as Malibu, but it's a gated community, and it's more in town. You know, it's not touristy at all, really, and we really liked that place. I wish we had that house here. The entire yard was tiled, with the exception of a few planter boxes, and I had a gardener. His name was Benjamin, and Benjamin kept that place looking spick and span, and it cost me $15 a week. And then we had another gal. Her name was Rosa, maybe. Rosa, I think. Anyway, she did the housekeeping. And when she came in every day, she did like it was in the Royal Islander. She took everything out of every cupboard, put it all back, cleaned everything. I mean, it was amazing. It cost me $25 a week. And I mean, the place was really nice place. And I would like to have it.
But what brought you back to the United States was both of you were getting older. Your wife's mother.
Couple of different reasons. Yes, her mother was still alive and her health was failing. But the other thing is Mexico. They could not figure out how in the world Rebecca Edith Anderson became Becky Baldwin. We had the documentation, we had it translated, we had it submitted to them, but they would not. And see, they
so
have
was the
some
visa running out, or
no,
you guys,
health.
your own health?
Yeah.
Her and you both needed to come back.
Yeah,
we got 30 seconds,
yeah,
so we got to wrap this
I
up.
got it instantly, but they never did clear Becky. And then when we came back, her mother was dying. She wanted to stay. We stayed some extra time to let the mother die. Mother died. We got physicals. Becky was found with cancer. We came back. We gathered our dogs. We sold everything off, and we came back.
And the first place you landed was
Taylorsville.
Taylorsville, and then from Taylorsville to where you're at now, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
We
right.
bought both.